Part 9 should be the last video for our long chapter number 2. So let's take a look at the different ways you can make payments of the tax to the government and actual procedures for filing the tax return itself. So here's our 1040 form, and we know when we earn income during the year, you're not going to wait till after the year's over and pay your taxes when you file your tax return. We should be paying during the year, and for most of us who have jobs, that tax payments are through withholdings with our employer. So if you take a look at your W-2 form you receive after the year's over, here in box number 2 is the total federal income taxes withheld from your paychecks during the year. Or if you have state income taxes withheld, here in box 17. So you just tally up all these income taxes withheld during the year from all your W-2s. Maybe you also have other sources of income reported to you on a form called 1099, like unemployment income, Social Security income if you have income taxes withheld. Again, all of that has to be tallied up and re-entered here in our line 17. Copies of this W-2 and 1099s that show income tax withholdings, I believe reading the instructions to our book, if you're going to paper file the return, you have to attach it to the 1040 form. If you're filing electronically, you don't submit any of this copies of the W-2 or 1099. Now, if you have income during the year, but you don't have income taxes withheld, maybe you have lots of investment income or business income, what you gotta do is pay the taxes on your own. And the form you would file for that is called a 1040 ES. ES for estimated taxes. And typically you have to make 4 payments. Here, this is the first payment on voucher number 1. That's due on April 15th. And the second payment during the year is due on June 15th. For this first and second payment for the current year, because of the COVID situation, the payments were pushed back to due to July 15th. The third payment of the third quarter is due on September 15th of the current year. And then the last payment is going to be due after the year's over, here on January 15th. So you would add up all of these estimated tax payments you made during the year, and the total goes back here on Schedule 3, not on the non-refundable section that we were dealing with earlier, but here in Part 2 in line 8, the estimated payments you made during the year, including maybe any overpayment from the previous year you credited to the current year. There's some other amounts here. We talked about the premium tax credit in a previous video. If you file for an extension so you can file your tax return later, that does not extend the time of any balance due. You still have to make a payment with that extension and then rewrite it here so we can tally it up when you file your final return, your regular tax return. People who have multiple jobs with different employers may have Social Security taxes withheld over the limit, so any excess can possibly show up as a credit here. And these others down here basically for businesses. So the total here in line 14 that we can rewrite back on the 1040 form on line 18D here, Schedule 3, from Schedule 3. So let's say that you have an overpayment, you paid too much during the year. For most people, they want it back as a refund. But if you know you're going to be paying estimated taxes for next year, instead of receiving a refund and right away paying it out again, what you can do is have that overpayment credited to next year's taxes as maybe the first or second quarter payment, and then maybe any extra refunded back to you. If you do get a refund mailed to you, it's going to go to this address you have back up here on the front side of the 1040 form. But a lot of us want to get our refund faster, so you can ask it to be direct deposited into your bank account by filling in the bank routing number and your bank number, account number over here. Now, hopefully you don't see that you still owe a balance due here in line 23. If it's well, if you want to make a payment at the same time you file your tax return, you need to fill in another form here called a 1040V. Yeah, V for voucher, and writing in the amount here. And looks like you cut it off here and you file it with your 1040 form. The check or the money order, you make it out to the United States Treasury, and in the memo you would write in your social security number and maybe the form 1040V and the year 20 whatever. So let's say that you're going to paper file, you're going to mail in your tax return. You got to make sure the taxpayer signs off here, and if it's a joint return, the spouse would sign here. The professionally prepared returns, professional preparers have to fill out this bottom section here. So where do you mail it into? The instructions to the 1040 form gives you different addresses for different states and whether you're going to be making a payment with the tax return being filed or just filing the return itself expecting a refund or making a payment later on. For Hawaii, if you expect a refund and not including any payment with the return, you send it to Fresno. If you're making a payment with the return or sending that 1040V voucher by itself, you send it to San Francisco. Okay. Now, most returns are not mailed, not paper filed. Most returns are now electronically filed, either through online services or via a professional preparer. If you're going to file electronically, the service or the preparer is going to ask you for permission to electronically to e-file. So you will need to sign off on this form that may include they can debit the balance due from your bank account, okay, through their service here. If you want to control your own payment to the IRS, what you can do is go to the IRS site called Direct Pay and just make a payment out of your bank account. I wouldn't recommend using a credit card because there's an extra fee charged to that. If you make periodic payments to the IRS, what you should do is use this site here called Electronic Federal Tax Payment System, where you need to set up an account, especially if you're going to make those quarterly payments. You don't want to mail that in, yeah? You want to have it direct debited from your bank account and any balance due for the year. Hawaii has a similar service on online payment system. Okay, I think that's it for chapter 9. If you have any questions, make sure you email me, kamida@hawaii.edu.